and I hope that we're going to get a verdict that will say guilty, guilty, guilty. And if we don't, we cannot go away.
Derek Chauvin's trial for the death of George Floyd is coming to an end. We can expect a verdict as soon as tomorrow, probably at some point this week. In this video, I explain to you why I think he will be acquitted, aka found not guilty, and why I think Maxine Waters, top Democrat, should be banned from all social media. But before we get started, make sure to like, subscribe, share. Some wonderful subs told me that my videos aren't showing up on their feeds anymore, so like, subscribe, share. It helps. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into it. The trial did not go very well for the prosecution. At the beginning, they came out swinging, but as time went by, the defense kept poking holes at the prosecutor's theories. And as we all know, in criminal cases, the standard is beyond reasonable doubt. So if the defense pokes holes and there's doubts, then guess what? They win. Now, this is not a full analysis of the trial because that would take hours, but I want to point out some highlights, if you will. First, let's talk about second and third degree murders. In my legal mind, there's absolutely no chance that Chauvin gets convicted of second or third degree murder. Third degree murder doesn't even apply. It talks about recklessness. It doesn't apply. Second degree murder, the prosecutions will need to prove intent. Now, if you don't know how the law works, you may confuse intent with motive. But those are two different things. Intent is state of mind. So the prosecution will need to prove that the state of mind of Derek Chauvin was to kill George Floyd. And that simply just wasn't the case. Chauvin was responding to a 911 call and he was trying to get George Floyd arrested, under control, not to kill him. That wasn't his state of mind. That was not his intent. Therefore, no second degree murder. When it comes to manslaughter, it's a little more complicated and the prosecution has a better chance. They needed to prove that Chauvin created an unreasonable risk, but still, the defense did a good job. In fact, it got so bad for the prosecution that at one point, the defense called a prosecutor's witness as one of their own. That's not good. That's when you know you messed up as a prosecutor. But let's talk about the witnesses now, because it's a very important part of the role that the media played in this. Do you guys remember a couple months ago, the media was saying how when George Floyd was dying, he was calling out for his mama? Well, it turns out that his mama is not his mama. His mama is his ex-girlfriend, who was one of the witnesses. And he was calling out for her because it turns out, as she testified, that she was the one who helped him when he overdosed in the past. And what was happening now to George Floyd? He was overdosing. Because as we know from other witnesses, he was in the car when they got George Floyd with who? His drug dealer, who was selling him methamphetamines and fentanyl. And when the cops got to George, he freaked out. He didn't want to be arrested with the drugs. So what did he do? He popped the pills. Then he figured out he was overdosing. At that point, he was calling out for his mama. Now, I think I can find the clip. If I do, I'll put it. If I don't, no clip for you.
Mama, I love you.
Medical analysis has concluded that George had enough fentanyl in his system to kill 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 horses. So it could probably taken care of one man. Now, the man who he was with in the car, the dealer, decided to take the 5th because he knows that if it comes out that he sold him the drugs and if it was the overdose that killed him, then the dealer can get charged with felony murder. Therefore, he pleads the 5th. Reasonable doubt? Reasonable doubt? I think so. Well, let's move on and talk about some other witnesses. For example, a health expert testified that if he had not seen the video of George Floyd being arrested, he had just examined the body afterwards, he would have assumed that George died of an overdose. But let's move on to another witness, the paramedic. They were all criticized that the police did not allow the paramedics to get to George on time. But the paramedic herself testified that police and medical procedures say that until the crowd is controlled, the paramedics cannot go and give help. And guess what? The crowd was not controlled. They were closing in and screaming at the cops. Reasonable doubt, anyone? But let's talk about another witness. This time, the use of force expert, who testified that not only was Chauvin's knee on George justified, but it was actually lesser force than he could have used in that situation. In fact, the expert said that in that specific situation, Chauvin would have been justified to use a taser on George Floyd. But when in fact he did not decide to use a taser, he was using lesser force. And while we're talking about the knee, it also came out that the knee in the neck was just a camera angle trick. The knee was not on the neck for 8 minutes. The knee was in fact on the shoulder blades, as admitted by the chief of police who condemned Derek Chauvin before. Reasonable doubt? Anybody? Anybody? You, sir? Reasonable doubt? We got reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt for 200. Reasonable doubt for 300. Reasonable doubt indeed. I'm going to show you the clip of George Floyd being put in the car, then out of the car and onto the floor. It's important to hear what's going on because George is seriously perturbed and he's asking to be put on the floor. He is asking to be put on the floor. Take a look.
You can't win. I'm not trying to win. Go and get in the car then. I can ground anything. Go and get in the car. He know it. He know it too, Mr. Officer. Y'all hear me? Don't do me like that, man. Please. Okay, can I talk to you, please? So you get in this car. We can talk. I am claustrophobic. I'm hearing you. You're not working with me. God, I'm claustrophobic right now, man. Get in the car. Get me in the front. Please. No, you're not in the car. I'm claustrophobic, Mr. Officer. Get in the car. Okay. I'm not a bad guy, man. Get in the car. I'm not a bad guy. You ain't gonna win. Please, officer. Please. Please. Pull him in. Take a seat. Pull him in. I can't choke. I can't breathe. Please. Fine. My wrist, man. Please. I can't take that, man. I can't. I'm lay on the ground. I'm lay on the ground. I'm lay on the ground. I'm going down. I'm not good.
Disturbing, I know. But as I said before, it seems like the knee on the neck was just a camera trick. But that's just one of the many things that the jury will have to decide. That, the popping of the pills, the dealer in the car, the use of force, the amount used, the lesser amount used, all those things will have to be decided by the jury. And if he doesn't get convicted, if he gets acquitted, then what happens? More riots? I mean, we've already seen riots in Minnesota in the last few weekends because of another shooting. But now we got Maxine Waters, top Democrat from California, who's a multimillionaire but acts as she's one of the people. You know, those politicians that talk like this. Because we need to take the money back. She's one of those. Well, she's been caught again calling for violence and riots not to stop if Derek Chauvin is not convicted. And if that's not inciting violence, then what Trump did, I said one of the no-no words, then what the orange men did should not have been banned. If Trump got banned, Maxine needs to get banned. Don't take it from me. Listen for yourself.
We're looking for a guilty verdict. We're looking for a guilty verdict, and we're looking to see if all of the talk that took place and has been taking place after they saw what happened to George Floyd, if nothing does not happen, then we know that we've got to not only stay in the street, but we've got to fight for justice. But I am very hopeful, and I hope that we're going to get a verdict that will say guilty, guilty, guilty. And if we don't, we cannot go away.
And not just manslaughter, right? I mean...
Oh, no, not manslaughter. No. This is guilty for murder. I don't know whether it's in the first degree, but as far as I'm concerned, it's first degree murder.
Yes, hello. Future me here editing, and I just noticed that Maxine Waters, this dumbass woman, just said as far as she's concerned, it's first degree murder. And first degree murder is not even on the table, first of all. Second of all, first degree murder requires premeditation. Does anyone here believe that Derek Chauvin pre-planned the murder of George Floyd? No, not even Maxine Waters. But she's so dumb that she doesn't know this yet. She's been in power for longer than I've been in this country. 20 years. Unbelievable. But let's go on.
What happens if we do not get what you just told? What should the people do? What should protesters on the street do?
I didn't hear you.
What happens?
What should protesters do?
Well, we got to stay on the street, and we've got to get more active. We've got to get more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know that we mean business.
Is that not inciting violence? Is that not worse than what the orange men did? No. And you know why? Because she's a Democrat and a woman of color. Perfect trifecta. But you know what? I'm an immigrant, Hispanic, of color, red color. I'm a ginger, which is a smaller minority than being black. So you can't criticize me either. Sorry. But what do you guys think? Should she be banned from all social media? Should Derek Chauvin be convicted? Should he be acquitted? Should we have more riots? Let me know your opinions in the comment section. Like, subscribe, share, comment. It all helps. And YouTube doesn't like me. But I'm a minority, so they need to start respecting me. Thank you for watching. See you next time.